Bonjour à tous et bienvenue à ma chaîne YouTube. Today on my workbench I have Jay's Breckwell brand Pellet Stove Controller. Jay's from Grass Valley, California. He sent me this controller because he was having some concerns about its functionality. So after discussing it with him, I agreed that he could send it to me. I received it earlier this week. I've done some work on it. I checked it all out and I find that it is fully functional. It did have a little bit of dust and dirt on it, but otherwise the switches and the rotary dial and the on-off switch are quite nice. They function, they have good action, so everything there is good. The circuit board itself is relatively clean. As I said, it did have some dust on it, but that's minor. I checked out all of the solder connections and everything looks good. So after testing it, I find that it is fully functional. I will say that I'd like to have a phone conversation with you, Jay, so we can further discuss what's happening with your stove and resolve any issues you may have or concerns that you have about it. As you can see, I have Jay's Pellet Stove Controller mounted to my test system. My test system is made up of a few items. I have a faceplate here which actually holds the controller itself, and it also holds an actual Breckwell auger motor. The motor is mounted at the rear. The shaft from the auger motor comes out the front, and on the shaft I have an X marks the spot decal on it, so when the controller is calling for the auger to drive, we'll see the X marks the spot decal spin. We'll actually also hear the motor drive behind here. And finally I have 4 light bulbs at the rear, and those 4 light bulbs simulate the different functions of your pellet stove. The first one simulates the igniter, followed by the combustion or exhaust fan in blue. Next is the auger motor in yellow, and finally at the far end in red I have the convection or room fan. Just know that for this controller the igniter will not come on. Jay's controller does not have the capability of igniting a fire on its own, so we will not see this igniter lamp come on. So let me go ahead and switch power onto the controller, and when I do, a couple of the lights will come on. As we see, the combustion fan indicator has come on, and so has the convection or room fan. The convection or room fan is a little bit dim right now. That's because the setting is at low. Since I'm in manual mode, I can do a few things now. One of them is obviously switch the speed of the fan. As we see, if I go to B, C, D, we see the intensity of the convection or room fan increase. Let me go back down. So it increases with every position, so the fan would be running faster and faster. And D, E, and max do not change. If you've watched previous videos of mine for this model of controller, you'll know that positions D, E, and max are hardwired together on the controller, so the intensity of the light bulb does not change. So let me cycle back down to low. I'm in low right now. The next thing I can do in manual mode is go to the high fan position, and when I do, we see that the intensity of the fan is at maximum. So that's functioning as well. And the final thing I can do in manual mode is actually do the manual feed. And as I press that, we see the auger drive come on. So we see the lamp at the back has come on. We also hear the auger motor spin. And we see the X marks the spot decal spin as well. Off. So that is functioning correctly. The next thing we can do now, since all of the manual features are functional, is go into automatic mode, and to do that I press the auger button here. When I do that, a couple of things will happen. First, we'll see the green light come on, and that comes on because on my test system I do not have an exhaust switch. I have that bypassed. So as I press the auger button, the green light will come on, and we go into automatic mode. Notice it happened, the green light is on. And now a timer on the controller has started, and that will determine when the first cycle of the auger motor comes on. Just know that it takes approximately 20 seconds for the first cycle to come on, and it's a very short cycle. So we'll see it happen here very shortly. The cycle will be quite short, but it'll be long duration between cycles. So just know that because of this controller, there we go, very short cycle. Just know that because this controller drives a 1 RPM motor, that short cycle will not drive a lot of pellets into the fire pit. Let's do one more cycle. And let me increase that now to maximum. Notice that the room fan intensity increased. I'm now at maximum. And the next cycle, we'll see that the auger motor will drive for a longer period of time. And after that, notice a longer drive period. Now the off cycle will be shorter, so that long drive will happen more often. Let's have a quick look here. It should happen sooner. There it is. So we have a longer on time and a shorter off time. That is in the max position. If I go back to low, it'll go back to a long off time and a very short on time. Long on time. So let's go back to low. The intensity of the room fan has dropped. Now we should have a longer period between the next cycle of the auger, and it'll be quite short. There it is. So one last time, and then I'll shut everything down. So we'll have to wait for that to happen. So in the meantime, Jay, I want to let you know that your controller is fully functional. There is nothing wrong with it as I received it. There's a short cycle. Let me turn it off. Your controller is fully functional. There was nothing wrong with it. Note that there is not a fuse on this PC board, so that's an older version controller. Some of the newer versions of this very model controller have a fuse right behind the faceplate here. This one does not have that, and as I noted, this one does not have the capability of driving a hot rod or an igniter. So there we have it. It's fully functional. I've demonstrated every function of this controller to you. As I noted at the beginning of the video, I'd like to have a phone conversation with you so we can further discuss this controller, your stove, and how to proceed next. For all you other viewers out there, if you have a pellet stove controller of your own, whether it's a Breckwell brand, analog or digital, Quadrifire, USSC, or others, and you have a service need for it, or you have questions, please feel free to contact me. My contact information can be found in the video description just below this video. In the meantime, I hope you'll take a few seconds to subscribe to my channel and give the video a thumbs up. I would appreciate that very much. Thanks everyone. Bye bye.